Welcome, everyone. Welcome to today's Century Club Business Series. I'm Alex Borchert, a 2006 BSBA graduate from here at Olin, this year's Olin Alumni Board President, and the Managing Director of Investments at Altus Properties, a real estate investment development firm headquartered here in St. Louis. I'm thrilled to welcome you all here today for our business series featuring Arnold, President and CEO of Carnival Corporation. We're also thrilled to have many alumni from around the country and the world joining us via webinar today. Olin's hosted this business series for over 35 years now to connect our Century Club members, their guests, recent graduates, our students, our staff and faculty with some of today's greatest business leaders. Now a few reminders of upcoming Olin events. Our next Century Club Business Series will be on April 12th and will feature our Distinguished Alumni Award recipients here from Olin who will share their lessons in leadership over the years. We also hope you'll save the date for that entire weekend, April 12th through 14th, as our annual festivities celebrating Olin alumni accomplishments. The weekend will, of course, include the Distinguished Alumni Awards dinner, the Emerging Leaders reception, and our graduate reunion celebrations. More details are sure to be sent via email and mail, so keep your eyes peeled, but I hope I'll see you all there. As always, should you have any questions on how to reconnect with Olin, to better connect with Olin, or on any of our upcoming events, always reach out after the event, give them a shout, give them an email, to anybody on our amazing alumni and development staff. It's now my pleasure to introduce our dean here at Olin. Mark Taylor was appointed dean in December of 2016. Prior to joining Washington University, Mark Taylor was the dean and professor of finance at Warwick Business School from 2010 until 2016. Please join me in a warm welcome for our dean, Mark Taylor.
Thank you, Alex, and welcome again to Olin's Century Club Business Series. I appreciate you being here to support your school. It's our vision to provide world-changing business education, research and impact, and none of that will be possible without the support of you, our valued alumni, friends and students. So Olin's second century is off to a strong start as we begin to implement aspects of our new strategic plan. And in fact, on Monday of this week, the Financial Times published its annual ranking, a global ranking of MBA programs in which the school jumped nearly 20 places to be placed in the global top 50 for the first time in that ranking in the school's history. Thanks. So I guess we must be doing something right. And we look forward to building on that history, on that strong foundation and getting things going in the right direction and working with you to make Olin one of the great business schools of the world. Well, as Alex mentioned, I hope all of you will be able to join us in April to celebrate the accomplishments of our alumni during Olin's Graduates Reunion and Alumni Awards Weekend. And we look forward to seeing each of you there. And perhaps you can also make it to our Shakespeare's birthday celebration on the day before, and we'll send you details of that. But it's with great pleasure that I can introduce today's featured speaker, Arnold. Arnold is President and CEO of Carnival Corporation, the largest travel and leisure company in the world, with a portfolio of 10 cruise brands selling to all 7 continents. Are there 7 continents? Well, there were 6 actually, but if there were a 7th, he would go there as well. To all continents around the world and serving more than 12 million guests annually. Previously, Arnold has held leadership positions at the Executive Leadership Council, a professional network for African American executives of Fortune 500 companies, the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation International, Merisant Company, and Monsanto. Arnold's history of involvement in civic and professional organisations includes serving on the President's Export Council for International Trade under Presidents Bill Clinton and George W. Bush. His current board membership includes Bank of America Corporation, Crown Holdings, Carleton College, Washington University, the Greater New Orleans Foundation, and BJC Healthcare. A native of New Orleans, Arnold received a Bachelor of Arts from Carleton College, a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering from Washington University, and an MBA from the University of Chicago. please join me in welcoming Arnold Donald to the stage.
Thank you, Mark, and good morning, everyone. Thank you, Alex. It's great to be here. I really appreciate the invite, and it's so much fun for me to see so many friends and acquaintances in the audience. So, they told me they wanted me to talk a little about Carnival, but first of all, I do believe, wherever the dean went, I do believe there are 7 continents. You probably forgot Antarctica, you know. And where some publication listed as a few financial advisors in here, probably because of that, but somebody listed the wealthiest people on each continent, and they listed me as the wealthiest person in Antarctica, where there are no people, right? So, you know, it's pretty funny. We take a lot of people to Antarctica, so they thought they'd have a little tongue-in-cheek moment. But anyway, it's all good. So, back in 2013, I was asked to serve as president and CEO of Carnival Corporation and PLC. The world's, as he mentioned, largest leisure travel company, dual-listed U.S., London Stock Exchange, and things have been kind of crazy ever since. So I travel about 300 days of the year. I'm in the vacation business. Every day is a vacation. And, you know, meeting with employees, the crew, our ports, our trade partners, governments, et cetera, et cetera. As he mentioned, I'm a member of the Board of Trustees here. I'm also chair of the Engineering School Council here. But most importantly for me was when I got the invitation from Dean Daler to come to do this, I thought I really needed to do it. So my WashU engineering degree, because I know our other dean is in the audience somewhere here, helped me to land my first job at Monsanto Company. I saw a number of people from Monsanto. Thank you guys for showing up. Where I had a 20-plus year career and managed a truly global business and traveled the world and built the platform that I'm using now for Carnival. And Monsanto actually also cemented my ties with St. Louis. I still have major property here, and you know, this is still home for me, even though I'm never here. Where I raised my 3 children and filled my life with lifelong friendships, some of whom in this room. So, even though I live in Miami, St. Louis and WashU have always been kind of my safe harbor, my port in the storm that is now my life. And as you can imagine, you know, running a multi-billion-dollar global company, I've got 120,000 passionate, dedicated employees, 103 ships. Is pretty awesome. But in fact, I've developed a bit of a mind reader capability as well, and I'm going to demonstrate it right now. Okay, so hold on. So admit it, as you drove through the traffic in the little chilly morning here, on your way to listen to some goof CEO of a cruise company, I bet you were thinking, wouldn't it be great to be on a cruise right now, right? Right, am I right, right? That was what you were thinking, right? So about 500,000 people are doing just that today somewhere in the world, a lot smarter than you. They're not sitting here listening to me. They're like out there cruising. So they got their act together on a beautiful ship somewhere in the Caribbean, off the coast of Australia, or even in Antarctica, you know, because it's summer there right now, with their spouse, their family, their college buddies, whoever, enjoying a cocktail, listening to great music, eating delicious food, visiting some beautiful spot in the world, all from the comfort of a beautiful modern cruise ship. So while you're here in this room listening to me, what's wrong with that picture, okay? You know, so you guys better get on out there and cruise, all right? It's all good. But we are here in the business school, and I'm going to share with you this morning a little bit about the cruise industry. It's got some very unique challenges and absolutely amazing opportunity. And the first comment is kind of fun because our business is making fun. So some people cruise to see far off places, some people cruise for romance, some people cruise to bring their family and friends together. But it's about fun. Because unlike air travel or the hotel business, nobody has to take a cruise. So let's take a look.
I think we all have our time machines. Some take us back. They're called memories. Some take us forward. They're called dreams. Where will they take us? What happens when we get there? Will we remain the same? Or will we never be the same again? Individually, we are a drop. Together, we are an ocean.
You know, we are all about dreams. And one of our greatest tasks is to convey to people who've never cruised, you know, to emote what a cruise really is. And this is one attempt, but it's also an internal piece for our people to remember and to remind them, you know, what we're all about. So we are a people business, but we're a complex business. You know, we build cities, and then we sell them around the globe. We're in the hotel business. We buy mattresses and uniforms and cleaning supplies. We're definitely a transportation business, and we employ a maritime crew of almost 5,000 officers. We have a state-of-the-art maritime center in Almere in the Netherlands with simulators that you would absolutely swear you're on the bridge or in the engine room, where we train our crew. And my chief maritime officer is a former 3-star admiral, ran the submarine fleet for the U.S., and did the budget for all the military branches in the Pentagon. So we are completely connected to every intelligence community in the world, every security entity in the world, every day, real time, full time. We're in the restaurant business. Our chefs are some of the greatest chefs in the world. Thomas Keller, per se, French Laundry, is the chef on Seabourn. We create phenomenal meals on our ships all over the world. We're one of the largest gaming companies in the world with over 100 casinos. And we run 24 hours a day. And we're one of the biggest entertainment companies. Just about anybody you can think of is performed on one of our ships or shoreside for our guests. We provide world-class entertainment on ships every night, every day, you know, all over the world. At one time, we may still be, I don't know, we were the largest art dealer in the world, because when people are on vacation or on ships, they can take their time, and if we give them what they want, they'll buy it. We're not trying to sell them anything. We just have to understand what they want, make it available, and they'll buy it. So we help and design and build the most modern, safe, and environmentally sustainable cruise ships in the world. Plus, we have an onshore team of people that not only help those ships run, but also make sure that our 250,000 plus guests every day, that they want to cruise with us again. But we're exceeding their expectations. We're living in a golden age of cruising. These are probably some of the greatest days the industry has ever seen. We got more than 27 million people expected to take a cruise this year somewhere in the world. Before we get too full of ourselves, Venice has 24 million people visiting the city every year. But 27 million for us is a big number. And about half of them will be on one of our ships. So one of every 2 people who cruise in the world cruise with us. So it's a pretty good global success story, but it hasn't always been that way. So some of you might recall just a few years ago, the cruise industry seemed to be in major difficulty. It was, in fact, a perfect storm. Since the early 1970s, the cruise industry had experienced steady growth and expansion around the world, but starting in 2008 through about 2013, a series of world-shaking events took place. The global financial crisis, remember that one? The Arab Spring, the BP oil spill, and unfortunately, a number of highly publicized cruise ship itinerary disruptions. And the new, that led ultimately to a congressional hearing. That's what that shot is. So the new instant communications, through smartphones and social media, meant photos and video were quickly shared around the world without context and without facts. So the upper graph is the conclave for electing the new Pope, Pope Benedict XVI in 2005. Look at that picture, same spot, although it's out of focus it looks like, or maybe it's just my, what they call them, progressive glasses. I started wearing glasses. So I don't know if it's in focus for you guys or not. But Pope Francis in 2013, everybody had instant communication device to photo and send. So in that little short period of time, the world had gone from, oh, let me tell you what I just did today, to right now I'm here, let me show you where I'm at and what's going on. So during that same period, industry capacity expanded dramatically. Unfortunately, the ability to create demand for that capacity has slowed, and our fuel costs doubled. Consequently, the operating performance suffered, leading to falling income, below market shareholder returns, and declining return on invested capital. So the industry was no longer the darling that it had been, and it was definitely not the industry that you might remember from the TV show The Love Boat. So everything was popular back then. And then we became a very frequent target of the media. So in 2013, I'd been on the Carnival board for about 12 years, and I never even thought about running the company, never even once crossed my mind. But in fact, when the lead director called to tell me they were going to split the roles of chairman and CEO, I thought he was going to ask me to be on the search committee for the new CEO. Instead, he said, "We want you to do it." And I have to admit, I almost told him no on the spot, because I was cruising through life. I had built a great career at Monsanto and had retired early, and I was having a lot of fun, doing crazy things on 2 minor league basketball teams. Never going to minor league sports unless you can own the arena, everything. Anyway, but anyway, so but I'm so glad that I actually did it. It's the best job in the world. And I started back in July 2013, not quite 5 years ago, and set on a path to kind of turn things around. And people at the time were saying it would take at least a decade for cruising to regain its reputation and popularity. So the first thing I did was I listened. I listened to our brand presidents, to our managers, to our people, all levels of the company. I listened to our guests. I listened to people who had never cruised. I listened to the community leaders in the places we touched, and I talked to the people on the street in those places, all over the world. And I listened to the media, okay? I listened to investors, and I listened to those who said there's no way I'm ever invested in cruise. I listened to everybody. And some of the things that were needed to be addressed were obvious, some less so. But Carnival Corporation had grown through acquisition from Carnival Cruise Line back in 1972 to a group of 10 different world-leading cruise lines that were all run independently. In fact, they barely communicated with each other. and it had been a successful formula. That's how it became the world's leading leisure company. So the first thing we did was we brought everybody together. We had team building exercises, we worked to understand the character of each brand, and most importantly, we committed to working together in the future, and we laid a foundation of communication, coordination, and collaboration. Somebody wanted to call it 3 C's and all that. I said, no, it's not a program, it's an everyday behavior. So communication, coordination, and collaboration. And it was a huge culture shift, but you know, people, I never wanted to centralize. That C is not in the picture because, you know, people sell on brands, not on a corporation. In the end, we're a people business. The other thing with centralization, business school folks, is if you look at American industry, you'll see companies centralized, become more efficient, then decentralized, become more creative. It's like an accordion. So people at Monsanto know what I'm talking about. So, you know, and it's not just every large company. So I asked 3 fundamental questions of the folks. What does success look like for you and your family 5 years from now? What does success look like for your brand or department 5 years from now? And what does success look like for your corporation 5 years from now? I paired the leaders up and had them report out about the person they were paired with, what that person said, the response to those questions. And I wanted them to practice their listening skills and to begin to listen to each other. So together we came up with a group vision for our company. And this is it. We deliver unmatched, joyful vacation experiences and breakthrough shareholder returns by exceeding guest expectations and leveraging our scale. Job 1 is to exceed guest expectations. We need to do that every day, all the time. And that simple sentence summed up everything we do. So for our customer, we're producing a product that helps to make them happy and joyful. We sustain breakthrough shareholder returns means that we're delivering for all of our stakeholders, obviously the shareholders, but to have sustained breakthrough shareholder returns, you have to deliver for freedom to operate. So safety, environment, the communities you touch, et cetera. And leveraging our scale means that we're working together as a global company of 10 world-leading cruise brands. Now, we realigned our focus to drive the success of our individual brands through driving more powerfully our collective success. And at the core was better understanding of our guests and then exceeding our guests' expectations. So through innovation, through measured capacity growth, and by disrupting our current thinking, we planned. And, you know, I told the street, you know, in late 2013, early 2014, we're going to be at double-digit return on invested capital by the end of 2018. And we started to leverage our scale everywhere. We leveraged it in market research, in revenue management, in itinerary planning, shipbuilding, and in media, and then in purchasing. But it's not just about leveraging scale to save money. It's about leveraging scale to tap into the diversity of thinking of the team to create revenue. So we purchased $9 billion a year in goods and services every year, and it was almost entirely uncoordinated. For example, we're the 5th largest purchaser of air travel in the world, and we never once approached an airline for a global discount to leverage that scale. Another good example is we were buying arugula. 7 brands were buying arugula. It has 7 different contracts on arugula for the ship's restaurants. It was one distributor. So that guy had negotiated 7 different prices with the 7 brands. Anyway, so a lot of low-lying fruit and some things are a little bit more challenging. So today we coordinate all of our purchases, and we've got a better outcome for our guests and lower cost for us. And getting these separate purchasing departments, as you can imagine, to work together in different countries and cultures was a challenge, but the results have been really, really great. The first year we saved about $10 million. I only had half a year, $10 million. And this year we're going to realize savings that will be nearly $400 million a year by just simply working together. So at the same time, we disrupted our current thinking. So when I started in corporate life about 40 years ago, you see the Century Club thing, you're just hoping it's not reflective of your age. But anyway, I rarely work with anyone who looked like me. And while that's changing, we have to be aware, and we got to actively engineer diversity. You got to pursue the goal of a diverse workforce. And it makes really good common sense. And here's why. In a capitalistic society like ours, Communities thrive when businesses thrive. All you got to do is like any community in the world, in the United States, where a major company's gone out of business or whatever, you know, it impacts everything. Parks and recreation, arts, education, health, it impacts everything. And so for sustained quality of life in communities in a capitalist society, you have to have sustained business results. And sustained business results occur from what? Innovation. If you don't innovate, you're going to get passed by, and something else is going to show up and take over. You have to innovate in your goods or products or services and the way you do things, but you have to innovate. And innovation is what, by definition? It's thinking outside the box. It's thinking differently. So having a group of diverse people doesn't guarantee you're going to have diverse thinking, but it certainly increases the probability versus everybody's alike. So in my history, if you get a group of talented people organized around a common objective with work processes to work because they're different. So they got to have help working together, okay? And you get them together and give them the work processes, they will out-solution a homogeneous team every time. So at our top management team now, it includes 3 female presidents, we've got 1 African-American president, 1 communist from former East Germany, 1 openly gay male president, you know, and that's just in our 10 brands. So we have 3 women on our 10-person board of directors, and diversity of thought is more likely to come from a diverse population. And diversity goes way beyond gender and ethnicity, but it includes that too. So marketing and communicating our story was another priority. So from my first day on the job, I started talking to the media about our business, our ships, about cruising in general, to help rebuild our image and our reputation in the eyes of the media and the perception of the public, our guests and our potential guests. So our strategy was to get crews out there in unexpected ways, to subtly start inserting crews into the conversation. And we started with American icon, the Super Bowl. So 4 years ago, this Sunday, we showed our first ever, and maybe ever, we may never do it again, but first ever Super Bowl ad. But the campaign actually started weeks before the kickoff. In fact, I gave the team the challenge to win the share of voice race before the ad ever runs, okay? Because it's not so much about the ad that day, it's about all the buildup you could get just from, you know, having an ad in the Super Bowl. So we created 4 separate ads. We asked people to go online and vote which one we should play on Super Bowl Sunday. And each ad was unique, funny, or touching, and one of them was a mystery ad. It just had a little bit of a tease in it, and we called it a mystery ad. And of course, we ran the mystery ad. But before we ran the ad, there were all the, you know, Super Bowl ad shows that come on the networks, and a number of them featured the ads that we had. They were trying to guess which one would win. So we got a whole lot of airplay, 30 minutes of airplay on shows as opposed to 30 seconds for $1 gazillion on Super Bowl Sunday. And then while the media numbers for the ads on Super Bowl were actually great, cumulatively, before we ever ran the ad, we had over 10 billion media impressions. 10 billion before we ever ran the ad on Super Bowl. And we ended up with about 20 billion media impressions. So just take a look at the ad that we ran.
I really don't know why it is that all of us are so committed to the sea, except I think it's because, in addition to the fact that the sea changes, and the light changes, and ships change, it's because we all came from the sea. And it is an interesting biological fact that all of us have in our veins the exact same percentage of salt in our blood that exists in the ocean. And therefore, we have salt in our blood, in our sweat, in our tears. We are tied to the ocean. And when we go back to the sea, whether it is to sail or to watch it, we are going back from whence we came.
How many of you recognize the voice? Yeah. So it's in the public space, but of course we were respectful and we got permission to do it. But it's in the public space. But as you know, John F. Kennedy, and you know, it was a powerful ad. So So back in 2013, remember I said people said it'd take a decade for cruising to regain its reputation and popularity. In the end, it took about 18 months. And in part, that's because the people who loved us, they never really left. So with all that disruption, the people who knew cruise, they never stopped cruising. They knew what cruising was really like. And by the end of 2014, things were already beginning to turn around. Earnings were up 25% over 2013. And then the challenge became and remains today, to increase demand beyond supply. And that will ultimately drive up yields, the oldest economic formula, supply and demand. And we need to persuade those people who've never cruised before to try a cruise. Because once you've cruised, we know you'll be back over and over again. So how many of you in the room, be honest, have not cruised ever? All right. So turn to people that didn't put their hands up, and they'll tell you why you need to cruise, okay? It's all good, all right? So our competition today is actually land-based vacations. It's not the other cruise companies. So, we're twice as big, one out of every two. We're, $51 billion, whatever the stock price is today, market cap. The next player is like 26 billion market cap. One after that is like 13 billion or 14 billion market cap. So our competition today is land-based vacations. All the cruise cabins in the world, add them up, they add up to only 2% of the hotel rooms in the world. 2%. So we're never a threat to land-based vacation because, we can't steal enough to make a difference. And there's only so many shipyards. So we are capacity constrained. The most the industry can grow in a year is 7%. That's the most it can grow. And you're retiring ships. So it's a beautiful business model because you've got constraint on capacity, large markets everywhere in the world that are underpenetrated. So the average cost of a land-based vacation, when you add up the airfare, the hotel room, food, entertainment, car rentals, etc., is much more expensive than a cruise. Cruising is not only the best vacation value there is, it actually really is the best vacation, period. And that's not just a tag, it's the people who cruise know. So we are aggressively renewing our fleet by building new ships, rejuvenating old ones, retiring or selling others that just don't cut it anymore. And we have 20 new ships, we have 104 ships now, scheduled for delivery between 2018 and 2022. The largest ship will carry 6,600 guests. It'll have 3,000 crew on it, so you're talking almost 10,000 people on the ship. The smallest one will have 600 guests, and there's one crew for every guest. I know a number of you here have sailed on Seabourn. It's the ultra-luxury cruise experience, and it's fantastic. So we build little ones, we build big ones, guppies and whales. So, in 2018, we're going to deliver 4 ships this year alone, and there they are. So our new ships are always more efficient, they use less fuel, and Aida Nova, which is listed there in December, it's from our German brand. It's all LNG, all liquefied natural gas. We take sustainability very seriously. Our ships are actual marvels of recycling and reuse, but we're not only pioneering the use of liquefied natural gas as a cleaner burning fuel alternative, we're partnering with Shell. I just had Chad Holliday, the chairman of Shell, out at our center in Almere, to help create an LNG distribution system all over the world, so that our ships, and hopefully soon many others, will choose LNG as a cleaner alternative. And we're busting the myths around cruising. We are totally focused on guest experience. As I mentioned, we partner with great celebrity chefs. They're the best chefs in the world. The dining on board our ships is unrivaled by any restaurant on land. And one of the myths about cruise is there's nothing to do. So Carnival Cruise Line is the largest employer of comedians in the world. All of our ships feature world-class shows and musical entertainment. We have leading spa and health centers on board our ships, phenomenal lecturers, adventure, excursions, on and on and on. Holland America, in fact, is known for their live music with a classical orchestra on Lincoln Center stage, a top 40 DJ at Billboard on board, and then a live band in B.B. King's Blues Club. So they got a nice music walk if you're into that. We've expanded where you can go on a cruise. And by the way, every cruise line is different. It's all about psychographics. It's not about demographics. Steve Wozniak, we pay him to lecture on Seabourn. He pays us to sail on Carnival. So he's a multi-billionaire. Carnival's mass contemporary, Seaborn's, it's about psychographic, it's what you want, and each brand is very different. So in addition to large markets and each one underpenetrated, you know, there's large market segments that are underpenetrated because the brands don't even really compete with each other. Except for new to cruise, because the new to cruise, they don't know what they want yet, okay? So we've expanded where we go on cruise. We visit more than 700 ports around the world on all 7 continents, Dean. I don't know, we can debate, you know. And then including Cuba. So just 18 months ago, our Fathom brand became the first American-based cruise ship to sail from Miami directly into Havana Harbor in 50 years. It's a distance of only 100 miles, but it's a world away for Americans. And to go, we had to get a long-standing practice in Cuba changed. So that practice was no one Cuban born, no matter where they lived in the world, could come or go to Cuba by sea. No one. And obviously, being based in Miami, large Cuban employee base, Cuban community, there was no way we were going to sail to Cuba and tell Cubans they couldn't go with us, right? So, you know, we negotiated with the government, went back and forth, and it became a big, you know, public thing for a minute or two when everybody thought we were going to sail and not have the practice be changed. But the Cuban government had promised us they would change it, and they did. And they made an announcement to the entire nation, and in that announcement of changing this long-standing practice, which is the first material that anybody could point to that they actually changed to go towards normalized relations with the U.S., they cited the company, they cited Carnival Corporation. So we generated over 60 billion media impressions cumulatively between Fathom and Cuba with all that. And now we have 2 lines sailing to Cuba. Carnival, sailing from Tampa, and Holland America from Fort Lauderdale. The enthusiasm of Americans to cruise to Cuba has been tremendous, and the welcome from the Cuban people has been totally heartwarming. And being part of that change in Cuba is definitely one of the most memorable moments of my life. But we need to do a lot more, and we needed new thinking, we needed innovation. And for us, it's all about the human spirit. It's about people, it's not about technology. And at Carnival, we want to create human connections in unique ways, maybe even unexpected ways that will enhance the guest experience, to raise the human element and raise the human spirit, the human interaction of travel. So when I get letters from happy guests, it's almost always about the human connections that made their cruise special. The innovation is when, without them even realizing it, our guests become part of the community, feeling connected in ways that makes them not want to leave, and when they're gone, they can't wait to come back. And that's the kind of innovation we want, and that's where we focus our efforts. So whether it's interaction of our guests with our crew, our guests with other guests, or our guests with the locals and the destinations, we want our innovations to make those interactions more meaningful and more impactful, more personalized, higher touch, higher impact with lasting impressions. So one of our most recent innovations has been to introduce the idea of cruising into people's conscious and subtle ways. So to get them thinking about taking a cruise, making them comfortable, knowing what to expect, and showing them how much fun it can be, and all the great experiences that they can have. So we've created a series of new television programs and also some commercials and stuff around the globe that share our guests interacting on ships and in fabulous destinations around the world. We want to plant the seeds of possibility, maybe even to start that dream of a cruise in the minds of our future guests. So let's take a quick look.
The ocean means freedom for me, because you can go anywhere in the world.
And it is absolutely enormous.
The fun has just begun.
Go, go, go!
I've been all over the world making exotic drinks with all of these local ingredients.
Cheers, and to the next voyage.
Welcome to Skagway, Alaska.
Thank you so much for making this happen for us.
You want to know where people come from.
Let's go out of the box and just take it all in.
Para mí no tiene manera de expresarlo, la verdad. Estoy maravillado
Bienvenidos al viaje de su vida.
I'm in Tokyo, Japan. This is my first time ever.
This is why you travel. Because it's where all the magic is.
So those shows on ABC, as you saw, NBC, Telemundo, Univision, a couple of other cable networks, they're award-winning. The travel shows are the most popular travel shows on TV. And then last year, as you can see from the end of the screen there, we launched our own digital streaming channel. We took over Times Square in New York for a few hours, and we launched our own network. It's called Ocean View. It features all of the TV shows you saw, plus a couple of digital shows on there, Go and Local Eyes. Those are shorter in content, 5-6 minute kind of quick bite snippets. And those shows feature new ship christening ceremonies or naming ceremonies, you know, how we design and construct our ships, new attractions. The Univision show is a primetime 1-hour show celebrating family and reunions, surprise reunions. It's a fantastic show, accessing about 53 million viewers. Ocean View is available on our ships, plus as you saw, so you know, write this down so you can look at it. Okay, Amazon Fire TV, Apple TV, and Roku, so you can pick it up on any of those and tune in at your leisure and check it all out. So at the New York Times Square event last year, we launched also Play Ocean in addition to Ocean View, and that's a portfolio of original mobile games that can be downloaded and played anywhere and while on board select ships. So guests will have access to real money Play Ocean Casino. So we have an app for that. That's on the ships. That converts the mobile games into onboard wager games. But offshore, you can practice. And you get some clams, you know, so you get your clams and you can play. If you run out of clams, you know, I thought they were teasing me, and I went online. I saw you go to Arnolds clam shop and buy more clams if you want to. You know, I asked them how the revenues were going. I think they got a few $100 so far or something. I don't know. But anyway, and so you may have seen the news last January that we introduced our Ocean platform featuring the Ocean Medallion. And that was at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. That generated another 20 billion media impressions, okay? So it's the first time a travel company had ever spoken at the Consumer Electronics Show, and it gave us exposure, which was by design, is what we wanted, to an enormous new audience, or actually new publications and sections of publications that access the audience and tremendous media attention. The medallion itself is a unique wearable device that acts like your personal concierge and delivers a new level of service on board. Our Regal Princess ship is the first ship, got a couple hundred guests, you know, a week going through the actual full medallion experience. Everyone on the ship experiencing some of the Ocean platform. It focuses our crew more on our guests, and our guests more enjoying their vacation. And that being further dependent on their smartphones. All right, it's not dependent on any smartphone or iPads. It can interact with those things, but you don't need any of that. It's a very simple device that's holistic and connects you. So what have been the results for all that activity, innovation, the media efforts, all of that? So in the last 5 years, our share price has more than doubled from the $34 plus on the screen in 2013, right before I started, to this week's high of almost $72. You know, we've outpaced the S&P 500, whereas before, for the last 10 years before that, you know, we were trailing the S&P. So our shareholder returns have definitely increased, and we're well on our path. We did 9.4% return on invested capital last year, and our guidance this year is to definitely achieve double-digit return on invested capital. And the revenue has grown in that time a little bit too. So the worldwide estimate is that more than 27 million people will take a cruise in 2018. And as I said, one of every two of them is going to be on one of our ships. Our ships sail full, and so do the competitions. I want the competition's ships to sail full because they're not my competition. In fact, if their ships don't sail full, they're going to lower their price. And that's a big aggravation to me, because I can't grow by building ships. You know, I can only build a few ships a year. I got 104 ships, so I'm only going to grow through capacity of, you know, a few percentage points a year, and that won't make shareholders happy. So the only way we can grow is capturing more of that value that you saw, the difference between the land-based vacation cost and what it costs to take a cruise. There's a huge global impact for the cruise industry. I'll do that quickly because I'd like to give you guys some time for questions. You know, we operate in about 138 countries. We sell guests to every continent around the world, 7 of them supposedly. And one of the most popular cruises that we offer, our World Cruise, is often sold out more than a year in advance. It's a 115-day cruise or around that. So, you know, you want to take a little time off, you know, right? So my wife's on a World Cruise right now. A lot of you guys know Hazel. She's on a World Cruise. She's somewhere between Niue, which is a little country that you can add to our country list now, that has like a population of 1,600 people, and between Niue, which is somewhere between French Polynesia and New Zealand, on her way to New Zealand. So she's about 30 days in her 115 days. Thank goodness for FaceTime, right? Because I need to know what she's doing on that ship right now. So not only do people want to cruise, countries want cruise ships to visit. So in 2016, industry expenditures generated more than 120, even though we're small, the impact is big. $126 billion in total output worldwide, generating $41 billion in wages, and those numbers don't reflect the ultimate economic multiplier effect. The dollars spent by us and then by our guests, and how they trickle down to all these places, like a little place like Niue with 1,600 people. They thank us all the time because they have no foreign debt. They have no, they have no debt, so they're happy. So cruising helps to create small and large businesses around the world, brings jobs, it brings hope in isolated places where opportunities are scarce, from the construction worker building new roads to the port worker to the chef to the small restaurant to the Cuban cab driver to the artist in the local craft market. Tourism contributes to the economic vitality of ports, neighboring communities, and their citizens. And the ongoing success of the cruise industry means there are shipyards in Italy, in France, in Germany, some in Japan. They're probably not going to build a ship for a while because they lost $2 billion on the last 2 ships they built for us. And then soon China. So building new ships every year and employing thousands of engineers, tens of thousands, skilled craftsmen and women. You know, shipyards are huge economic engines for their countries. And then, perhaps most importantly, in these days of political uncertainty, it's the simple traveler who becomes the ambassador. We're taking millions of these ambassadors every year to Mexico, to Russia, to the Middle East, to Cuba, and to the United States. You know, we become living and breathing human beings, not flat images on nightly news or disconnected words on social media. You know, I truly believe that travel is the antidote to ignorance, and that the more people cruise and see the world firsthand, the more they're going to discover what they share in common, and then they can learn to appreciate, even celebrate, and definitely respect their differences rather than to fear them. So, thank you. So I think I'm very lucky. I've been lucky my whole life, lucky to be in this golden age of cruising. There's never been a better time to cruise. You know, go make the world a better place. And I want to thank you for listening, and I hope to see you on one of our ships really soon. Thank you very much. Thank you. So if I give really short answers, we got time for a few questions. Way over there and in the front.
I've taken 14 cruises, most on Princess and Carnival, and every time, so I follow the cruise lines, so every time I turn around, new ships are coming out, and as you pointed, 20 are coming out. My question is this: have you done any work or any analysis in determining how many ships can the world support and does the market need?
Absolutely. So how many ships can the world support and the market needs? Cruise is in the 5-year plan in China. It's in the 5-year plan. Why? Because it's a major economic multiplier. It's a major driver for jobs. Not just building the ships, building the ports, the terminals, etc. China has 130 million outbound tourists a year, okay? Let's say they're double counting. That's 65 million outbound tourists a year. Way more than any other country in the world. Less than 1 million people are cruising, okay? China can be by itself as large as the entire cruise industry is today. And only about 3% of the population cruises today in the developed markets. So every market could take more ships. We have to build the demand along with it, but every market could take more ships. And, you know, there's just not enough shipyards to do it. You know, I've done a deal with the Chinese government. We've got 6 ships home ported over there now. We're going to take the first ship out of the CSSC, one of the state-owned enterprises that builds ships there in 2023. They're going to have to build ships if they're going to realize the economic dream that they have, because there's nowhere to get the ships. So there's plenty of demand, and in fact, I don't know how many, but I know today there's no way we could produce that many in any reasonable time. Okay, thank you. There was one up here, and then one back. Oh, the mic's here already.
Two real quick questions. Number one, I got my Costco magazine yesterday with you on the cover, which you showed. How much booking do you get through, let's say, a non-traditional source like Costco? Second quick question. You have 104 ships sailing around the world. You have people like the Weather Service telling you where you shouldn't go. You have the State Department telling you where you shouldn't go. Is that why your hair is white?
No, my hair is white. Where's my Monsanto people? My hair is white because I spent 3 winters in Winnipeg back when I was like 30 years old or something, and it's never thawed out. So that's why my hair is white. But the reality is, you know, it's a global world. Every year in our business, the following things happen. Every year. Every year, there's a disease scare. Ebola, Zika, MERS, Agent, every year. Every year, there's cyclones, typhoons, hurricanes, every year. This year, the Caribbean got hit hard. A year ago, some places in Asia, every year. Every year, there's geopolitical tension. We used to go to the Black Sea, can't go to the Black Sea. Our highest yielding itineraries were in Turkey, can't go to Turkey. Every year, there's some place you can't go. Every year, the smaller cruise lines rush wherever the highest yield is, and they create a little pocket of overcapacity somewhere, every year, okay? Every year, this one's not quite as accurate, but you'll get the idea. Every year, fuel prices will go through the roof, or if not, currencies are gonna crash and burn you. So those things happen every year. So and the people in my son are gonna die, just like I used to say, look, don't tell me about the weather in agriculture, you know? I don't want to hear that as a reason why we didn't hear our numbers. You got to assume bad weather. We have to assume all those negative things in our business and then say, given that, how are we going to deliver what we need to deliver for the shareholders? And then when that stuff happens, instead of standing in front of the analyst saying, well, the reason why we're adjusting, you know, you're saying, no, we're going to raise guidance, okay? Because you're already organized around it. And so that's the nature of the beast. And so all that stuff happens, but it's just the nature of the business. And you know, we have to be prepared for it. We have to assume it's going to happen. We don't know exactly what's going to happen, but we have to assume those bad things are going to happen. And when they do, how have you organized already to still deliver for the shareholders where you should deliver? And in our case, deliver for the guests. Now, our assets are mobile. You know, the Weather Service could help us out a bit, but to be honest with you, you know, the captains, they know we have our own radar systems. And I mean, we stay away from storms, okay? Every now and then, somebody in the industry might get caught because, like, you're going through the Drake Passage. It's a little narrow space, you gotta go, stuff comes up quickly, but the ships are designed to handle that, okay? And every now and then, there's a couple other places in the world where if you're in that channel, you know, if things come up quick, it's hard to get out, but that's very few places, and you know that before you cruise. The other ones are somebody made a mistake, because there's no reason to be in a storm, and the ship, it moves, and we're fast, so we can get out of the way. So, so that's, you know, I hope I answered your question. It's good to see you. Costco and stuff, you know, for us, the travel agent is really important for us, because if you get on the wrong, anybody had a bad cruise experience, you're on the wrong ship for you, okay? Because they're all so different. So if you have a seaborne person who wants to be pampered, who wants Osetra caviar, frozen vodka, and Lay's potato chips at 2:30, okay? And they're on a Carnival ship, you know, they're not going to have a good time. They're in the wrong spot. And by the way, the carnival people don't want them on there either, okay? And so it's very different people. And so, you know, and so the travel agent knows the brand, if it's a good travel agent, you know, they know, and it doesn't cost the guests anything to go to a travel agent. It doesn't cost them anything to go to a travel agent. And we need the travel agent. Now, if you go to Costco or OTAs or other things, you know, people trying to go online, they're looking for the best price, that kind of stuff. And that's just the nature of the world. So we don't get into debates with the travel agent community. We say, look, there are going to be people who value your service. If you bring real service, then, you know, they'll value that and you'll get paid for it. And so you just got to make sure you're providing service. And not paid by the client, you know, because the guests don't have to pay for a travel agent. So I would encourage anybody who hasn't cruised, as much as I love you to go online and all that stuff, if you talk to somebody you know and they know you well, you can take their advice. But otherwise, I'd use a travel agent to really start out. Because I actually, if you cruise with somebody else, that's okay if it's the right one for you, because those brands are very different than our brands. And I'd rather you have a great experience, because word of mouth is the most powerful marketing tool in the world. And if somebody comes on the ship and they have an okay time, when they go back, somebody's like, how was your cruise? It was okay. Really makes you want to cruise, right? So can't have that. They got to come back and say, oh my, that was the best thing ever I never experienced. And then we got them. And so that's the deal, exceed guest expectations. Up front here, yes, Patang. Yeah.
About taking the job.
Right.
What was the, what changed your mind?
Actually, what really changed my mind was first, you know, first question I had was, when did you guys have these meetings? I'm on the board. When did all this happen, right? So the second thing, the second, and I was head of the comp committee, so I had to negotiate with myself. That was really hard. So the second thing was I thought, well, it's Mickey Harris. I know Mickey for 13 years, you know, and you know, it's his family, it's his legacy, it's his family's wealth. And I thought, you know, I got to at least talk to Mickey. I can't just say no, because I'm flattered he's even thinking to ask me. And then when I talked to him, we talked it through, and I realized the platform it was. I'm not going to lie to you, I didn't realize how much fun it was going to be. I didn't, okay? But I did realize the platform it represented, and that I could maybe, you know, really do some things and have some fun with it. And so he and I talked, and then I told him after that, I said, look, I got to talk to each board member individually, because these are my colleagues. And I was at a stage of life where the last thing I wanted to do, you know, they might say, well, I like Arnold, he's a good board member, that means he can run the company, right? So I wanted to make sure each board member felt it was the right thing. Because if they didn't, I didn't want the headache of trying to convince the board I'm the right person and all that stuff. I was just at a different stage of life. I've been retired almost 10 years, right? And so so that's what happened, and I talked to them. You know, the Brits, you know, you can't, we have a couple of Brits on board, and I was like, come on, guys, I know you're British, but you got to tell me the truth, okay? So, because they're so polite, you know? And it's like, don't be polite. If you think this is stupid, say it's stupid, okay? But, you know, anyway. So, so that's what happened. And it's the best job in the world. It's ridiculous fun, yeah. All right, Nancy, yeah. Okay. I just finished watching Peaky Blinders, okay, on Netflix. So I stay up late to watch stuff because I'm working all day and all night. But actually, I'm not a worrier, you know. So I assume things are going to go wrong, and we organize for it. And they do. We had a heck of a hurricane season, you know, in the Caribbean last year. I mean, we had, it was daunting. But, you know, we were organized for it. And so the thing that bothers me is asking the question a different way, or what could really hurt the business, people have to be able to travel, and they have to want to travel. So any kind of massive, we have some geopolitical tension every year somewhere, but if a major portion of the world got taken out where people couldn't travel there, you know, like all of Asia, all of Europe or something, you know, obviously that's a really bad thing for our business. Or if just people were afraid to travel, you know, and chose for whatever reasons not to travel, that's bad for our business. As long as people can travel, then we've got enough value and enough stuff, you know, but that's the thing. Okay, he's standing. One last question?
Time for one last question.
All right, one last one. Yes, sir. You want the mic? Oh, he's got a real important question. He needs to take the mic.
Not that important.
Yeah.
I have only cruised once, not 14 times,
Hey.
but it was to Alaska, and it was the trip of a lifetime. 3 generations and 3 rooms. It was pretty fantastic. I would
Awesome.
recommend that. I often hear that millennials value experiences over stuff. Certainly, this is a growing demographic and an important one for Carnival over the long term. Do millennials cruise, and how do you market to them to create interest and enthusiasm for cruising among the young people?
Yeah, I'm head of the industry association right now. There was a study done a couple of years ago, but actually millennials and Gen Xers over-index on cruising because of the experience thing. So, and also because of value. They're younger. Some of them have tons of money because they were the first ones in Google or whatever. But the reality is that, you know, it's a great value and it's experience-based. And so millennials actually over-index on cruising. And evidence of that, you know, we have the data by age and all that, but you can also, you know, we have a lot of weddings on board the ships. Sometimes it's, you know, people approaching the Century Club, but usually is younger people, and it's millennials and Gen Xers. And they've traveled with their families before, or they go with their college buddies or whatever, and depending on, you know, which orientation they have. But that's, you know, we get a lot of millennials. Okay. All right, that was the last question. Hey, guys, thank you very much. Great to be here. Move all this stuff out of your way. Alex.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Mark your calendars for April.